Sorry, Grandma, there just isn't enough space for you. That was the lie my granddaughter told me to keep me away from my great-grandson's baptism. She said it was a tiny apartment gathering. But when I logged onto Facebook that afternoon, I saw the truth. A banquet hall, 80 guests, catered food, and a mountain of gifts. There was plenty of space for 80 strangers, but no space for the woman who paid for her college tuition. So when she called me 3 months later begging for $4,000 to save them from eviction, she expected her sweet, senile grandmother to write a check. Instead, she met the ruthlessly successful businesswoman she seemed to have forgotten I was. My name is Adelaida, and if you want to hear more stories from Secretos de Familia about how I taught my entitled family a brutal lesson in economics, subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from. To understand the magnitude of the mistake my granddaughter Vanessa made, you have to understand who I am. I am 68 years old, yes. My hair is white, and I move a little slower than I used to. But for 40 years, I ran the most successful catering and event planning company on the coast. I didn't bake cookies. I managed logistics for weddings of 500 people during hurricanes. I dealt with corrupt unions, hysterical brides, and supply chain nightmares. I retired to a quiet life, but I didn't retire my brain. Vanessa forgot that. She saw an old lady in a rocking chair. She forgot she was looking at a shark resting in shallow water. It started on a humid Tuesday afternoon. My phone rang. It was Vanessa. "Hi, Grandma Adelaida," she chirped, her voice rushed. "I'm just calling to let you know we finally set a date for baby Leo's baptism." My heart soared. My first great-grandson. I had been knitting a christening gown in my head for months. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful," I said, instinctively reaching for my planner. Old habits die hard. "When is it? Do you need help with the cake? I still have contacts at the best bakery in town. I can get you a discount." No, Grandma," she cut me off, her voice sharp. Then came the pause. The uncomfortable silence of a lie being born. "Look, it's going to be really intimate. The economy is tough, you know? It's just going to be us, the godparents, and Leo. We're doing it in a tiny chapel and then a quick bite at our apartment. We literally can't fit anyone else. There's no room." I felt a cold knot in my stomach. "Not even for your grandmother?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Honey, I don't take up much space. I'll sit in a corner." "Ugh, Grandma, don't be difficult," she sighed, sounding annoyed. "It's logistics. It's hot, you get tired easily, and there are too many stairs. We'll bring the baby to see you some other time. I have to go, Leo is crying. Bye." She hung up. I sat there in my silence, holding the phone. Logistics. She used the word logistics on me? I invented logistics in this family. I once seated 300 people under a tent in a tropical storm without a single drop of rain hitting a guest. And now, there was no logistics for me in her apartment. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was ashamed. Maybe they were broke. My son, Vanessa's father, died 10 years ago, and I've always tried to help, but maybe they didn't want me to see their struggles. So, I waited. The Saturday of the baptism arrived. I dressed up, put on my pearls and my perfume, even though I wasn't going anywhere. It's an old trick. If you look dignified, you feel less miserable. I sat with my iPad. Yes, I know how to use it, and waited. Around 4 p.m., the notifications started pinging. Vanessa has been tagged in 45 photos. I clicked. And my heart broke. It wasn't a tiny apartment. It was the Golden Arch Banquet Hall. I knew the owner. That hall holds 100 people. And it was full. I scrolled through the photos, feeling the heat rise up my neck. There was Vanessa's husband's distant cousin. There were neighbors from 3 streets away. There were college friends she hadn't seen in years. I counted 80 heads. There were round tables with white linens, centerpieces with blue balloons, a massive candy station, and a mountain of gifts. 80 chairs. And not one for me. I zoomed in on the gift table. Expensive appliances, toys, clothes. And there was Vanessa, holding my great-grandson, holding a glass of champagne, smiling. She didn't look worried about money. She didn't look worried about space. It wasn't about space. It was about me. I didn't fit the aesthetic. I was the old relative who might be boring, or needy, or just Uncool. They wanted my money in the past, but they didn't want me in the present. I could have commented on the photo. I could have called and screamed. But Adelaida Montero doesn't make scenes. She makes plans. I closed the iPad. The next day, I went to the most expensive baby boutique in the city. The salesgirls knew me from my business days. Dona Adelaida, they greeted me. Shopping for the great-grandson? Yes, I said, putting on my best poker face. I want the best stroller you have. The German travel system. The one with the shock absorbers. $1,200, the girl said. Wrap it up, I said. And send it with a card. I wrote the card in my impeccable cursive. Asterisk for Leo with all my love. Even though there was no space for me at your party, there will always be space for you in my heart. Great-Grandma Adelaida. Asterisk. It was a power move. I wanted to see if they had any shame. The stroller was delivered. I got the notification. I waited for a thank you. A call. A text. Nothing. Vanessa posted a photo of the stroller on Instagram. Asterisk, baby Leo riding in style. Thanks to the grandparents. Asterisk, grandparents? Plural? She let her in-laws take the credit. That was the moment something in me died. The grandma, who slipped $50 bills into pockets, died. The businesswoman woke up. 3 months passed. I went silent. I stopped liking her posts. I stopped commenting. I focused on my garden and my orchids. Then the call came. A Thursday morning. Hi, Grandma. Vanessa's voice was sweet, dripping with syrup. How are you? We've missed you so much. I didn't ask how she was. Hello, Vanessa. So, listen, we have a huge emergency, she rushed on. Our landlord is kicking us out. He's selling the building. We found a perfect new house for Leo, but we need a deposit immediately. It's $4,000. And we need a co-signer with property. She paused. We need you to lend us the money, Grandma. Just a loan. We'll pay you back. If we don't get this house, we'll be on the street. I closed my eyes. The audacity was breathtaking. No space for me at the party, but plenty of space in my wallet. That's a lot of money, Vanessa, I said calmly. I know, but it's an emergency. The landlord is selling. Please, Grandma. Come over tomorrow, I said. Bring your husband, Jorge. And bring the baby. If you're asking for this much capital, we need a meeting. Okay. We'll be there at 10 a.m. She sounded relieved. She thought she had won. She thought she was coming to see the sweet old lady who baked cookies. She had no idea she was walking into a shark tank. The next morning, I woke up early. I didn't bake cookies. I put a pitcher of ice water on the table. I went to my study and opened my contact book. The real one, leather-bound, with the numbers of everyone who mattered in this city. Vanessa said her landlord was selling the building. I looked up the address she had lived at for years. It was owned by Roger Garcia. Roger and I used to buy bread at the same bakery 30 years ago. I dialed the number. Roger? It's Adelaida Montero. Adelaida, the queen of catering. To what do I owe the pleasure? Business. Roger. My granddaughter lives in your building on 4th Street. She tells me you're selling the building and evicting them. Silence. Then, Roger sighed. The sigh of a tired landlord. Adelaida. I'm not selling anything. That building is my retirement. Then why are you evicting them? Because they haven't paid rent in 3 months, Adelaida. 3 months. And the neighbors are complaining about noise. Parties. I felt my jaw tighten. 3 months. Since, about 3 months ago, Roger said. They told me they had a medical emergency with the baby, so I gave them a grace period. But then I see them coming in with shopping bags, new electronics. I can't run a charity. I understand, Roger, I said, my voice cold as ice. Thank you for your honesty. Please. Don't tell them I called. I hung up. There was no medical emergency. 3 months ago was the baptism. They spent the rent money on the party. They spent the rent money on the banquet hall, the 80 guests, the champagne. They stiffed their landlord to play rich for their friends, and now they wanted me to bail them out. I went to my computer. I typed up a document. Not a check. A contract. I printed 2 copies. I put on my best silk blouse, my real pearls, and my lipstick. I sat in my high-backed armchair in the living room, facing the door. The sun was streaming in behind me, which would put their faces in the light and leave mine in the shadow. Negotiation Tactic 101. They arrived at 10 a.m. sharp. Vanessa, looking stressed but hopeful. Jorge, her husband, looking like a puppy who peed on the carpet. And my beautiful great-grandson in the $1,200 stroller I paid for. Grandma! Vanessa tried to hug me. I didn't stand up. I didn't smile. Sit down, I said, pointing to the sofa. They froze. The tone of my voice wasn't Grandma. It was CEO. They sat. They looked around for the coffee, the snacks. There was nothing but the contract face down on the table. So, I started, folding my hands. Tell me about this eviction. The landlord is selling. Yes, Vanessa lied without blinking. He's a jerk. He gave us no notice. We found this new place, but we need the $4,000 today. Jorge nodded vigorously. It's just a loan, Dona Adelaida. I have some business deals closing soon. We'll pay you back in no time. Business deals, I repeated. Jorge had changed jobs 4 times in 2 years. And how are your finances otherwise? Any big expenses lately? No, nothing. Vanessa said. We've been so frugal. We barely go out. That's strange, I said, tapping my finger on the armrest. Because I heard rumors of a very lavish baptism about 3 months ago. 80 guests. Catered. Jorge went pale. Vanessa flushed red. Oh, that, she stammered. That was... My in-laws paid for that. It was very cheap. Cheap, I said. Interesting. I leaned forward. I spoke to Roger Garcia this morning. The silence in the room was absolute. You could hear the clock ticking. Roger? Vanessa whispered. Your landlord, I said. We go back 40 years. He told me he isn't selling. He told me you haven't paid rent in 3 months. He told me you claimed a medical emergency to get an extension. I stood up and walked over to them. The baptism was the medical emergency, wasn't it? You took the rent money and you threw a party for 80 people where there was no space for me. And now, you want me to pay for your vanity. Vanessa started to cry. You don't understand. The pressure. We wanted everything to be perfect for Leo. Leo needs a roof, not a party. I snapped. You are liars. And you are broke. Jorge looked at his shoes. We're sorry. We didn't know who else to ask. I have the money, I said. Their heads snapped up. Hope. Greedy, stupid hope. But I am not giving you a loan, I said. I am offering you a bailout. Under my terms. I flipped the papers on the table. This is not a check. This is a management contract. What? Jorge asked. Option A, I said. You leave here with nothing. Roger evicts you next week. You go to a shelter or move back in with your parents, who I know don't have room for you. Option B, I continued. I pay Roger the 3 months back rent directly. Not a penny touches your hands. You stay in the apartment. But in exchange, you sign this. What does it say? Vanessa asked, terrified. It says I control your finances, I said. You hand over your credit cards. You hand over your debit cards. I give you a weekly allowance for food and essentials. No eating out. No parties. No new clothes. And Jorge, you get a real job. I have a job. Jorge protested. I'm a consultant. You are unemployed, I countered. I know you spend your days at Starbucks using the free Wi-Fi. My friend owns that Starbucks. Tomorrow at 5 a.m., you report to the fish market. My friend Gregorio needs someone to haul ice crates. It pays minimum wage plus tips. You take it. Haul ice. Jorge looked horrified. I have a degree. You have a debt, I corrected. And until it is paid, you haul ice. And you, Vanessa, I looked at my granddaughter. You quit nursing school because it was too hard. You're going back. I paid the re-enrollment fee this morning. I will watch the baby while you study. You finish your degree. You can't do this. Vanessa cried. This is controlling. It's humiliating. Humiliating. I laughed. Humiliating is lying to your grandmother because you think she's an ATM. Humiliating is being evicted with a baby because you wanted to show off to friends who don't care about you. I checked my watch. You have 5 minutes to sign. Or I call Roger and tell him to proceed with the eviction. I watched them crumble. I watched the entitlement drain out of their bodies, replaced by the cold, hard reality of adulthood. They looked at each other. They looked at the baby sleeping in the expensive stroller they couldn't afford. Jorge picked up the pen first. His hand was shaking. He signed. Vanessa glared at me through her tears, hatred and shame warring in her eyes. She signed. Good, I said, taking the papers. Give me the credit cards. Reluctantly, they pulled them out of their wallets. I took a pair of scissors from my desk and cut them in half right in front of their faces. Asterisk snip. Snip. Asterisk. The party is over, I said. Welcome to the real world. I'll see you Sunday for your financial review. Don't be late. They walked out of my house looking like they had been run over by a truck. I closed the door and leaned against it. I was exhausted. But for the first time in months, I felt useful. I hadn't lost my family. I had just acquired a failing subsidiary that I was going to turn around, whether they liked it or not. Sundays used to be for church and pot roast. Now, in my house, Sunday is Judgment Day. It was 11 a.m., and the ceiling fan was slicing through the humid air. Vanessa and Jorge sat at my dining table, looking like prisoners of war. But instead of handcuffs, they were shackled by a pile of crumpled receipts and a calculator. My name is Adelaida, and if you want to know how I turned two entitled spenders into responsible adults, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments if you've ever had to give someone tough love. It had been 4 weeks since I took over their lives. 4 weeks since I cut up their credit cards and sent Jorge to haul ice at the fish market. Explain this, I said, pointing a manicured finger at a receipt from a gas station. $12.50. It says, snacks. Jorge shifted in his chair. He looked different. He was thinner, tan from working outdoors, and his hands were rough. I was hungry. Dona Adelaida. Hauling ice crates makes you starving. I just bought some chips and a soda. The contract says, essential groceries only. I reminded him, writing the amount in my red ledger. You pack a sandwich, Jorge. Chips are a luxury you can't afford when you owe 3 months back rent. This comes out of next week's allowance. Abuela, please, Vanessa snapped. She looked exhausted. Her nursing scrubs were wrinkled, and she had dark circles under her eyes. It's $12. You're treating us like children. I'm treating you like people in debt, I countered. And speaking of income, Jorge, where is your pay stub? Jorge pulled a crumpled envelope from his pocket. He handed it to me. I opened it. It was cash, minimum wage plus tips. But it was heavier than I expected. I counted it. There was an extra $200. I looked at Jorge over my glasses. Did you steal this? No, Jorge said, sitting up straighter. Gregorio. Mr. Gregorio gave me a bonus. A bonus? I asked. For hauling ice? I fixed his inventory system, Jorge muttered, looking at the table. I saw that his drivers were double counting the shrimp crates. I made a spreadsheet on my phone during my lunch break and showed him where he was losing money. He saved $500 this week because of me. So he gave me a cut. I paused. I fought the urge to smile. Jorge, the consultant who spent his days at Starbucks, had finally used his business degree for something real. Good, I said, keeping my face stern. That goes directly to the principal of the loan. We are 2 weeks ahead of schedule. The transformation wasn't overnight. It was a war of attrition. For the first 2 months, they hated me. I could see it in their eyes. I was the witch who stole their freedom. Vanessa would come over after nursing school, drop the baby in my arms, and collapse on the sofa, complaining about her feet, the rude doctors, the exams. I hate it, she cried one evening. I'm cleaning bedpans, Grandma. Me. I wanted to open a nail bar. And you will, I told her, rocking little Leo. One day. But first you finish what you started. Character is built doing things you hate, Vanessa. But slowly, the complaints changed. One day, Vanessa came home with a spark in her eye. I placed in 4 on the first try today, she said. The head nurse complimented me. She said I have steady hands. That's because you stopped drinking champagne at noon, I said dryly. But I squeezed her shoulder. Jorge changed too. He stopped wearing his flashy suits that didn't fit his life. He wore jeans and work boots. He stopped talking about big deals and started talking about logistics. Gregorio wants me to manage the loading dock next month, Jorge told me over our Sunday audit. He says the other guys respect me because I don't mind getting my hands dirty. Imagine that, I said. Respect is earned, not bought. Then came the real test. Leo's first birthday. It was 6 months into our arrangement. They had paid off the back rent to Roger. They were current on their bills. But they still owed me the last $1,000 of the stupidity tax I had levied. We need to talk about Leo's birthday, Vanessa said one Sunday. She looked nervous. Here it comes, I thought. They want a party. They want a clown. They want the banquet hall. We aren't doing a party, Vanessa said quickly. We don't have the money. And honestly, we don't have the friends. What do you mean? I asked. Since we stopped accepting invitations to expensive dinners and stopped posting flashy photos. Nobody calls us, Jorge said. Of the 80 people at the baptism, only 2 have checked in on us. The wheat separates from the chaff, I nodded. So, no party? Just a cake, Vanessa said. Here. In the garden. With you. And Gregorio. And maybe my 2 friends from nursing school who actually study with me. I smiled. A real smile. I'll make the mole, I said. You buy the drinks. And you help me clean up. Deal. Deal, they said. The birthday was nothing like the baptism. There were no balloons, archways. No DJ. No pile of expensive gifts. We sat in my garden on plastic chairs. I made my famous mole poblano. Jorge and Gregorio sat in the corner drinking beer and laughing about fish prices. Vanessa sat on the grass with Leo, letting him smash a homemade cupcake into his face. It was small. It was quiet. And it was real. There was space for everyone. As the sun set, Vanessa came over to me. She handed me an envelope. What is this? I asked. The last payment, she said. Jorge and I saved every penny of his tips for 3 months. We're square, Grandma. I opened the envelope. It was $1,000 in small bills. I looked at them. They stood there, holding hands, looking proud. Not arrogant. Proud. I took my ledger. I took my red pen. And I drew a big line through their account page. Paid in full. Then, I reached into my pocket and pulled out their credit cards. Or rather, the new ones I had ordered for them. Here, I said. You're free. Jorge took his card. He looked at it for a second. Then, he did something that shocked me. He snapped it in half. I don't want it, Jorge said. I like cash. If I don't have the money in my pocket, I don't buy it. I sleep better that way. Vanessa looked at hers. She didn't snap it, but she put it deep in her purse. For emergencies only, she said. Real emergencies. Not, I need a new dress emergencies. You guys are boring now, I joked, blinking back tears. I preferred the drama. No, you didn't, Vanessa laughed, hugging me. Thank you, Grandma. For being a witch. I prefer executive financial consultant, I said. The next day, Jorge quit the fish market, but not really. Gregorio made him the operations manager. He wears a polo shirt now, but he still checks the ice crates himself. Vanessa graduates next month. She's top of her class. She still talks about the nail bar, but now she says, maybe in 5 years, when we have the capital saved. And me? I'm back to my orchids. I'm back to my quiet afternoons. But yesterday, I opened Facebook. Vanessa posted a photo from Leo's birthday. It was a blurry selfie of the 4 of us. Me, Jorge, Vanessa, and the baby covered in chocolate. The caption read, with the boss of the family. Thanks, Grandma Adelaida, for teaching us that real wealth isn't what you spend, it's who you have. And for the mole. I liked the photo. And then I went to the kitchen. I have a new project. I'm writing a cookbook. But it's not just recipes. It's called Recipes for Life. How to Cook a Perfect Mole and Manage a Crisis. I think it's going to be a bestseller.